And hello, happy Friday, happy Halloween, as it's October 31st here in 2025. Welcome to another edition of the Scholasticks Podcast, episode 7 of our official Winnipeg High School Hockey League podcast. We're brought to you by Terrico, Movement Fitness and Performance, Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia Goaltenders, as well as Terrico as well is another sponsor of ours, as we're live here on gshow.ca a Friday afternoon where it's going to be quite busy for us throughout, well, from now until the evening time, as we have two games to broadcast today, one in the High School Hockey League, which we'll be getting into in this one, as well as in the Manitoba Major Junior Hockey League. But in this episode, we're going to take you through highlights, as well as just taking a look at the standings, stats, past games, and upcoming games from all three divisions in the league. But first off, to join me in an interview that we did back on the 22nd, so a few Wednesdays ago now, or a Wednesday ago, I guess. It was quite a busy weekend for us, so we weren't able to get an episode out as we were covering the Husky Classic. This is the first of two episodes you'll be getting in the next few days for the Scholastics podcast, by the way. But it's great to have a guest on nonetheless, even though the interview was done last week and three games have been played by a squad since then. But that's Mike Fischer of the Linden Christian Wings in the Price division, as I had a chance to talk to him about what it's been like getting a chance to have this program slowly build up again, the group of players they have this year and how it's compared to years past. And we also talked about the upcoming matchup that team ended up having against Edward Schweier. That's all coming up next on the Scholastics podcast with Mike Fischer, head coach of the Linden Christian Wings, joining me next. And it's Mike Fischer, head coach of the Linden Christian Wings in the Price division of the Winnipeg High School Hockey League, joining the show. Mike, you're back for another season as head coach. The team started off 1-0-1, losing the first game. Losing the first game in regulation and then coming back strong with the 4-1 win against Lundar last Thursday. Take me
Mhm.
through how this season's kind of started for Linden Christian.
Yeah, for sure. It's great to get cracking here. We played Niverville to start, and they're a strong team. Last year when they beat us at the end of the regular season, they beat us 9-2. So our team was well aware of that and had that in their memory banks. So we came out and played a spirited effort, played a hard game against them, and lost by a goal. But it was a pretty even game all the way through. So I was pleased with our effort. And then yeah, we bounced back with a good win. We scored 4 goals in the first period, en route to a 4-1 win in a game where we spent a lot of the time shorthanded, but not here to talk about referees, but we spent a lot of the time shorthanded. But yeah, our team played really well. So I was really pleased with the effort there. And we've got game 3 tonight and game 4 on Friday. So busy, busy.
Yeah, and we'll get into those just a little bit here
Sure.
in this interview. But in terms of just seeing that resiliency from a team that was shorthanded, like you said, a lot against Lundar, being able to come away with a 4-1 victory, what does that say about this group that looks like it has a lot of experience with it this
Yeah, so yeah, good question. And you know, the reality is we lost 3 grade 12s going into this year, so and we didn't really add a whole bunch of players. I had 2 less players trying out this year than last year. So part of it is the team's coming together and gelling and playing as a squad better than we have before. There's a little higher level of compete, I think, with this group than we had. I mean, we showed it at the end of the year last year compared to the beginning of, our very first year last year at this time. So the kids they played really well. They rallied. They fought hard. They won some puck battles. Yeah, as I say, we were on the short end of the PPPK thing. I think 7 or 8 penalties to 1. So we spent 6 or 8. I think it was 8 minutes of the third period shorthanded. One was a 4 minute penalty against us, and we killed them all off. So I think it says the guys are the boys and girls. They're buying in and they're playing hard, and they're playing for the W instead of the goals and assists. So I'm really pleased about that.
Yeah, and of course, one player in particular that's been stepping up big time so far has been Fisher Anderson on defense. Anderson Fisher on
Yeah.
defense. 6 points in two games played so far. How huge is that to be able to see someone like that from the back and being able to contribute in such a huge way to start the year off?
Yeah, it is huge. He's a big part of our team. He's been named captain for the year. He was an assistant last year, and toughest part about being a kid on this team when your father's the coach is I'm going to ride him harder, of course, and he does get worked harder. But yeah, he started off really well. He's excited about the year. I mean, he scored 3 goals in the last game, and they were all in the first, I guess, 11 or 12 minutes of the game. Um, it's hard work. It's playing hard. It's just winning puck battles. It's being in the right place, having sticks in the right place, and just playing hard, competing hard. He's done really well, but we got a really good team, a good solid group of players that make this work. It's not a one-man game. It's a 16, 18 player person game, and real pleased with the team.
Yeah, and of course, nice to hear that for, uh, Anderson, he's able to be able to step up even as the coach's son. Hey there.
You know
So,
what? Sometimes it's a cross we all have to bear, and there's some advantages, of course, because we can talk about hockey a lot. But the toughest thing is I'm going to hold him to the same level, maybe even higher than the rest of the team. And sorry, that's just birthright. And
sure.
uh, yeah, he's embraced it. He's excited about it, and the team has a mindset here. And again, you never know what's going to happen the next little while. But I'm seeing a lot of improvement over last year and a lot of progress being made from last year to this year with the group.
Right. And like you said, I mean, only three players graduate out from this program. A lot of continuity coming back from last season. Is that, in your opinion, I mean, so many coaches talk about it, how it's huge to have a good group of grade 12 players. It's very much considered sometimes a grade 12 league, right? If you
Mm.
have the right grade 12s, you can go a long way. Would you say that this group very much has that recipe this season?
Yeah, partly. Yeah. I can certainly see that because I've seen where teams have graduated 5 or 6 grade 12s and they drop a division, for example, in this league. So in our case, we had three go down. We've got a really strong group of kids all the way through. Last year, probably strongest kids were a grade 10 group, 9 and 10. This year it's 10 and 11, and we do have some strong grade 12s as well. And like I say, we've got strength all through the lineup. So the nice thing is this team's built to play well at this level. I think we'll be strong again next year. So it's a nice kind of position to be in. Yes, the 12s are going to certainly contribute and be a big part of our team this year. But I would still say our 10 and 11 group is certainly driving the bus as well.
Yeah, and I know that that's usually the hope that you're able to have, that sustainability throughout the pipeline in terms of having a good group of grade 12s than the 10s and 11s. Was that
Mhm.
the mindset, I guess, heading back to even last year constructing a lineup this way?
Well, so the challenge was for us last year, as you can imagine, is starting a program that had been dormant for 6 or 7 years. We were starting from absolute square one on this. I had really no idea what we had as a team. I knew a handful of the kids because I'd coached them through minor hockey through the years in the Fort Garry and South Winnipeg area, but I really had no idea what we were getting into. And we had a mix of kids. We had maybe one AAA kid on our team, a couple others that were AAA level, maybe a couple AA kids, and then some A1s, and frankly, some A2 kids playing rec hockey that are playing on our team. And they've come together, and I've seen some really good strides in this group, and they're starting to understand the concept of what it takes to play a team game like hockey and what it takes to succeed. So I've been really, really pleased with that. And yeah, I mean, sure, it'd be nice to see, that we're setting things up for next year, but you know what it's like in hockey. We're only as good as our last game, and the only one I focus on now is the next one. So bring it on.
Well, of course, and of course, a challenge like you said, restarting this program basically that's been dormant for the past number of years.
Mhm.
What's that challenge, been like? You've spoken about it a bit already, but
Yeah.
just going through the process of actually doing it and putting
Mhm.
pieces together.
It's been a challenge for sure. And I mean, from a coach point of view, that I'll speak to that quickly. And then from a manager point of view, our general manager is absolutely brilliant. So I'll touch on him first. Had the guy that had to go, some teams will just say, okay, this is my ice last year. This is my ice this year. It's already in place. We had to go and build it. And when I say we, I mean he went and built it all. My job's easy. I just push pucks and chase kids around the ice. So, but as far as building the squad, we're not a big school as far as hockey. We're not a big school as far as numbers in 9 to 12. We don't have 500-600 kids to draw from. We have maybe a couple hundred kids, and how many of those are hockey players. So it was a little illuminating to me to see kind of the level that some of the guys were at or weren't at. But the nice thing is we've built something, and it's a foundation that we can add to throughout the years, and it's starting to bear a little bit of fruit. As I say, very early in the year, but it looks like it's starting to bear some fruit.
Yeah, and great to hear that just the support system around you and around this program is fantastic. Like you said, how things have been built up very short in a very short time here
Yeah.
these
Yeah,
past
absolutely true. And we've had great support from the school itself as well. And like I'm not a teacher at the school, and our GM's not a teacher at the school, so we're sort of outsiders. But with a couple of teachers on our coaching staff and with the school itself, we've had great support. So it's been a really good partnership. And as I say, I think we're building something that should have legs.
Yeah, it's fantastic to hear. And I mean, having a chance to continue on this train of trying to win a few more games here coming up in the next 2 days, going out to Garson Arena to take on Edward Schweier today at 3:30, and then to Lactabani Sports Arena on Friday to take on Pinawa.
Mhm.
What's been the, I guess, preparation been like heading into these games? I'm
Mhm.
sure there's been a few practices this week already.
We have we've the nice thing is we got our practice schedule up and running, and we started an academy in the mornings, so the kids are on the ice twice a week as well. So it was really important to me. I'm a huge believer in practice is far more valuable than a game. In fact, I like practices more than I like games. The kids don't really believe that, but it's true. I do. Great opportunities to work on stuff. Keep in mind, a kid's going to touch a puck 40, 50, 60 times in a practice and might touch a puck 5 times in a game. So
Right.
we've had some practices, which is great. Looking forward to tonight's game. Ryland's going to start for us in net. Ashton's played our first two games. We have two goalies. We're blessed with two now this year, and Ryland's added to the squad. Seems like a real good kid, so we're glad to have him part of it. So he's going to play tonight. And then probably back to Ashton on Friday. We've been able to work on a few things. Again, as a coach, there's never enough practice time. I'd like more. I'd like more. I'd like more.
Yeah.
But we've been able to work on a few things that, like I say, if we come out and forecheck hard and play hard and try to play in their zone as much as we can, we'll have success.
Yeah, and great point about the practice time. I think that doesn't get talked about enough. The amount of touches that players actually truly get in games and in
Mhm.
practice. Well, that's where you hone your craft, right? And get the most
100%.
touches. So, looking forward to seeing how this process, how that work will translate into these next few games this week. Mike, thank you so
Mhm.
much for taking the time and joining me here, and can't wait to see this team in action coming up in the next few months.
No, thanks, Graham. I appreciate it a lot, and I'm really glad that you're doing this. This is great exposure for the league, and I look forward to chatting with you again.
And Mike Fischer joining this edition of the Scholastics Podcast, a podcast where, of course, when we had last spoke, his team was taking on Edward Schweier. And as for Linden Christian, since I had talked to their bench boss, they ended up losing that game later that day on the Wednesday, 5-4 to Edward Schreier. That ended up being in Garson Arena, so it was a road trip for Linden Christian. In fact, they've been on the road for their past 3 games, but yeah, it was really won in that first period in that game as Edward Schreier got off to a 2-0 lead. Linden Christian struck back with 2 goals of their own, but then the Barons would pull ahead 3-2. 59 seconds remaining in the period. And then both teams split the goals back and forth in the second and third periods. As for Linden Christian, 4 different goal scorers in that game. So the depth is coming through for them. They bounce back in their next game in Lactabani, winning 4-1 over Pinawa, and then losing to Lorette 5-1 in their most recent game, which was this Tuesday. But taking a look at Lorette, they're away, going to start off this season 18 goals for, 3 goals against only. The biggest story, though, Niverville starting off with a 6-0 record and hasn't really even been close between them and their opponents. Best goal differential by far in the league with 31, 43 goals for and 12 goals against, as they've been pretty tough to beat so far. Edward Schreier and Linden Christian both find themselves in the middle of the pack in the standings here in the Price Division, heading into the final day of action in October. It's, of course, the last day of the month. This was last week's set of games, as Niverville pretty dominant. Same with Warren there over Kildonan East in a game that we ended up covering. And, of course, Niverville a 10-3 victory over Windsor Park last Thursday. Linden Christian finishing off the week with a W. In terms of how this week has gone so far, Warren starting off with a shutout victory over Murdoch McKay. Lorette with the 5-1 win over Linden Christian. Niverville with a big win over John Taylor. And then Niverville doing it again yesterday, 6-1 in Lundar. West K also with a big victory over Kildonan East. Kildonan East looking for a big bounce back today against Windsor Park, as we take a look at standings once more. Both teams so far starting off 0-4 in the win column. So what a day to get it started, last day of October, to set the mood right heading into the next month. In terms of how well this Niverville squad has been able to be, as good as they've been, it's been these 5 players that have been leading the way, all over a point per game. We see Mitchell and King both with over a 2-point per game average. Same with Weeb. And then in net, Lorette getting good goaltending so far. Same with Warren and West K, as Warren's Mason Clausen, 2 games, 2 shutouts, which is pretty outstanding. For the full statistics, be sure to check out the Winnipeg High School Hockey League's website at winnipeghshl.ca. We're going to send it to a commercial break now, and then I'll be back for some highlights and more standing stats, upcoming games, and results from throughout the other 2 divisions we haven't talked about yet in the Winnipeg High School Hockey League. You're watching the official WHSHL podcast, Scholasticks, here on G-Show Productions on gshow.ca. We'll be back soon. Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia offers the widest selection of sports cards and signed memorabilia in the city. For dedicated casual and new collectors, Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia has everything a collector could ask for. Everything we sell is stored with care, and with help from our knowledgeable team, we'll help you find exactly what you're looking for. We carry Upper Deck hockey card brands like Series 1 and 2, The Cup, Ultimate, SPA, and plenty more. So what are you waiting for? Come down to Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, Winnipeg's premier sports cards and memorabilia store. And welcome back to the Scholasticks Podcast, as we're heading into the final part of this episode, as we'll get into highlights as well as standing stats, scores, and upcoming games from around the Platinum Promotions Division and the Winnipeg Free Press Division. And also going to be bringing up some big news about tomorrow's show, and also big news heading forward here on the podcast that'll be revealed tomorrow. But into the A division, as these are the updated standings. Steinbach still on top. Sturgeon Heights a win behind them with 2 games in hand as they start off 3-0. A huge win yesterday for Sturgeon Heights, which we'll look at in just a moment. A lot of 3-win teams here, in fact 5. Vincent Massey, I'd make the argument that they are the best team in this division, even though they're not quite first yet. They had a phenomenal weekend at the Husky Classic, repeating as A Division champions. And yeah, they continue to look dominant in league play. As for the league play last week in the A division, though, pretty slow compared to the past week and then the upcoming weeks, just because there was a lot of teams competing in the Husky Classic, which consisted of teams from all divisions throughout the Winnipeg High School Hockey League. But as we take a look at it in a game that we ended up covering, in terms of trying to take a look, we had River East and Steinbach. We had a Price Division matchup last week. That's right, and a Winnipeg Free Press Division. Didn't even cover the Platinum Promotions Division teams until this past weekend. But Garden City continues a strong start to their season last week, as they ended up winning 4-1 over Selkirk. Miles Mack edged out St. Paul's, which St. Paul's heading into this past week hadn't even scored a goal yet, but that would change in their matchup this past taking a look at it this past Tuesday at the Hockey for All Center. Or not the Hockey for All Center. I'm just trying to find the game right now. I feel like we missed it on the schedule. We cropped it out, but yeah, St. Paul's ended up falling 3-2 to Sturgeon Heights, and then Sturgeon Heights would end up following that up with a 5-1 victory over Shaftesbury to get to 3-0. Selkirk with a very entertaining win yesterday over Westwood, and Belleville the same over Garden City. As we take a look at those standings again, it was huge for Belleville because they ended up jumping up 2 points over Garden City in the standings. As for Lord Selkirk, it was their first win of the season, as Westwood and St. Paul's remain as the only winless teams, but as mentioned, St. Paul's ended up getting onto the score sheet for the first time this season, even led Sturgeon Heights in that 3-2 loss that they had. But in terms of Lord Selkirk and Westwood, we had that game yesterday. Westwood got off to a 1-0 lead in this one, but then 3 straight goals, in fact 5 unanswered goals from Selkirk, put them in a great spot. But Westwood wouldn't go away in the third period, as they were threatening a comeback. But as we go through the best moments from this game, tied at 1 apiece, this gets over to number 13 and Chase Bridges in the slots. Wires one past number 30 and goaltender Ethan Olsen Mesa, as Selkirk actually ended up chasing Mesa in this game. Olsen Mesa, that is. Later on, still in the first period, Beasley sinks a shot through a bunch of traffic to beat Olsen Mesa. Didn't really even have a chance to see that one, as great execution from Lord Selkirk. They would be up 5-1 in the third, but then the lead would be cut down to 5-2, and for Westwood, they'd work a D-to-D. Sniping one into the net would be number 4 defenseman in Bullard. Donovan Bullard, that is. And Westwood wasn't done on the power play just yet. Great face-off win by Taylor. Gets it back after Westwood goes tic-tac-toe on the setup up top on the power play. They would cut the lead down to 1, but it wouldn't be enough for Westwood to complete their comeback. Of course, as mentioned, they fell to 0-4. And as for the Warriors coming up, so that was the first win for Lord Selkirk, as mentioned. But as for the upcoming games, Westwood will be back in action next week against St. Paul's, as St. Paul's has a chance to get in the win column for the first time this season against a very good team in the Oak Park Raiders, as Oak Park hasn't played as many games as some of the teams near the top of the standings, but they're still at 6 points through 4 games played. A win today would potentially boost them up at least near that top 5 positioning in the standings, as Oak Park was stunned this past weekend as they had a chance to go to the B-side finals, but Garden City would end up defeating them. That's what I like about the A division, and most of the divisions so far. Obviously, there's been the dominant forces, such as in the C division, Lorette, Warren's pretty dominant so far. Can't forget about the three teams up top right now, I'd say, in that division: Warren, Lorette, as well as Niverville. As Niverville and Lorette, we take a look at the standings once more in that C division. Are the three only undefeated teams to start things off. Murdoch McKay with a pretty good start at 3-1, but yeah, overall, I'd say the consensus throughout league play in general is that besides a few of the dominant teams that have been laying down the hammer, there's been a lot of close games, a lot of parity. If you don't come ready to play, well, look out. It may be a long game for you. There's a lot of compete in these teams, a lot of close games so far. We've seen a lot of comebacks to start off the season. And of course, teams showcasing their best and putting up dominant performances. And then even in the Winnipeg Free Press division, which we're going to get into in just a moment here. It's been great to see, for example, CPET losing big against Churchill in a game that we covered this past week, or this week that's still going on, as we had that game on Monday. But CPET would end up responding with a big one of their own in their next game. And Churchill ended up losing to Springfield by a pretty big score in the next game. So it's game by game truly in this league. Just because you win big or you win decisively doesn't mean that that'll necessarily carry over if the effort level isn't exactly there, right? And I'm not saying that it wasn't there for teams like Churchill in their upcoming game, which they ended up losing pretty big to Springfield. But just overall, if you don't come ready to play in this league, it's anyone's game at the end of the day with how close these teams truly are in skill level. But as for the B division, before we get into that, I want to show you the stats leaders from Division A, as Jay Sanderson been leading the way. He's been instrumental to the Huskies' success to start this season, and truly that whole first line of Easton Therian and Rylan Murphy, they're probably the biggest reason why Sturgeon Heights has been able to get off to this type of start. Vincent Massey with a few players near the top of this list in the top 5, and then as well as their goaltender Nathan Dick cracking the top 5 in terms of goaltenders. Derek Zimmerman has been great in his one performance so far for CJS, but in terms of volume of games and quality, Cash Amore for Steinbach, he's 2-0 with the shutout and .980 save percentage to start off his season. As for the B division, well, the only undefeated team left is last year's C division champs, Price division champs in the Louis Riel Voyageurs, as they've been an absolute wagon to start off this season. Gabrielle Raw been really good as well, but yeah, Louis Riel is punishing their opponents to start off this season. As we take a look at the past week of action in a game that we covered, Louis Riel with an 11-3 victory over the Springfield Sabres. Gabrielle an 8-2 win over the Louis Riel Voyageurs. And sorry, the team I was speaking about earlier was Gabrielle, it was CPET, sorry. It was teams with similar colors in this league. But yeah, talking about CPET and Churchill, we look at it here, 6-1 win for Churchill, but in the very next games for these teams, a 7-1 win for Springfield, and then, well, for CPET, as they win 5-2 over Stonewall. So that was on Wednesday, a day to think about that loss they had against Churchill. I know that their social media had put out that they understood that the effort had to be better in the next game, and it definitely was to get that victory over the Stonewall Rams. As for CPET, they won't be in action back until next week against Dakota, which that'll be a tough matchup. As for Dakota, they're coming off a close loss to Louis Riel, the closest team to beating the Voyageurs so far, but Dakota fell just short. Louis started off with a big 9-2 win this week against Sanford in Sanford on the road. Definitely huge to be able to get those victories for Louis Riel. They look to stay undefeated. Coming up next week in their next matchup coming up against Calvin High School. As Gabrois, Logan Barnaby leading the way in points. He's been one of the biggest, if not the most important part of Gabriel Raw's success so far this season. But we look at Louis Riel, they don't only have one person that can beat you, but multiple players, as we see here on the list. These are all the players that are tied within the top 5 for points. And yeah, it's a handful of talent that you have to prepare against when you're going up against Louis Riel, because they got multiple guys that can beat you. And their goaltending, maybe not the best on paper, but we see there it's a team that hasn't allowed, very many shots. Is that indicative of Prescott's numbers in that one game? And if you take a look at the rest of this team's goaltending lineup, as just going to take a quick peek over at their team stats on the website. But yeah, 4 games played for Ben Gagne. He's given up 100 and, faced 125 shots. So, yeah, a team that, I guess on average is giving up a lot of shots on net, as they've allowed 31 against on average pretty much. And then I feel like that game for Prescott, a bit of an anomaly where he only faced 10 shots in his first start of the year. But yeah, overall, Louis Riel is, they got the offense to, play solid hockey right now and to be able to have the success they have. And their goaltender in Ben Gagne has had a .912 save percentage. So they're getting really good goaltending, really great contributions up front. And it's a big reason why this group ends up starting off the season at 5-0. For the full statistics, the standings, the upcoming games, the past games, be sure to check out winnipeghshl.ca for more details surrounding this great league. But yeah, I guess to finish things off, we're going to send it to a promo screen here, and then I'll be back with some exciting news ahead of an exciting game day around here on G-Show Productions. gshow.ca, as you can access this podcast here. If you're watching directly from our YouTube, we thank you for doing so. Hopefully you're all having a wonderful Friday, and more importantly, a wonderful Halloween so far. Thanks so much for tuning in and choosing us on this special holiday in the holiday season. We'll be back soon. And welcome back to this edition of the Scholasticks Podcast. Of course, Mike Fischer joined me in this episode as the guest of this podcast. And yeah, it was great to be able to get to know a bit more about the Linden Christian Wings, who, for Linden Christian, when taking a look at them this season, they've started off, of course, near the middle of the pack in the standings, 1-2 in their past 3 games. And for this group, a team with a bit more experience this season, as they have a good chunk of grade 12 talent, and then they got a nice mix to a few 2010 born players in there. So for this group, a team that so far has seen their scoring coming from, mostly 6 players so far have put the puck in the back of the net. Anderson, Fisher being big time from defense, actually leading this team in points still. But Linden Christian still searching for more of their depth to pick up. And for this team, that depth hopefully looking to pick up for them in their upcoming schedule as Linden Christian, they're going to be back in action. Not today, there's only one game in the Price division. Linden Christian won't be actually back in action at all coming up next week, as they're not on the schedule unless we cropped it out. Be sure to check out WHSHL for the full schedule, of course, as already mentioned many times throughout this episode. As for their next game, it's not going to be until November 14th against Edward Schreier, as they look to get revenge on them then. But as for us and our podcast, we'll be returning tomorrow with another edition of this show, and what we'll be talking about is going to be, just the month that was October. We'll be recapping the Husky Classic. We'll go through some of the best plays from throughout the month, maybe featuring what we felt was the best goal, and then I'll be giving my take on all three divisions again, where I kind of feel like the top end teams are teams that have started off the season a bit slower, that I feel could get better, and also taking a look at the very bottom teams and analyzing them in all three divisions so far across this wonderful league. As for our Winnipeg High School Hockey League game day schedule, we're hoping to get it out for November tomorrow, but I am excited to say that we will be at St. Vital Centennial Arena for today to broadcast a spooky edition of Winnipeg High School Hockey League game day, as it's our second time broadcasting the Kildonan East Reveres, as they'll be going up against the Windsor Park Royals, as we get a chance to see them for the first time this season. But all of these games you see here, except for unfortunately the game on the 16th, CSLR and CPET, Wi-Fi just wasn't cooperating at Dakota, but all these other games on the schedule, it can be seen, watched on our gshowproductions.uscreen.io service. I guess that's just the name of the link you would get to, what you type in to get there. But be sure to visit that service there. That's where all of our Winnipeg High School Hockey League games are going to be not only broadcasted live, but they're going to be archived there for the remainder of the season. All money, by the way, not all money, but a portion of the money goes back to the Winnipeg High School Hockey League. So I know that the games in person, you don't have to pay to get them, to watch them live in person from the actual rink. But of course, want to stress that this broadcast solution, this PPV service that we've come up to, one of the big reasons we started it is for, easy accessibility. If you can't make it into the rink, we'll have the game live streamed with a full HD camera with Zoom capabilities, full play-by-play commentary, and we also include graphics in our broadcasts that relate to the teams. We do pre-game and post-game content. We're going to start including more interviews pre-game and post-game moving forward with coaches and players, and a portion of your money goes back to the league, so it helps support the Winnipeg High School Hockey League, trying to help them generate a new source of revenue this season. And if you want to check out high-level hockey, it's the place to be really on our Uscreen service to watch the select games that will be broadcasting this season from the Winnipeg High School Hockey League. We're hoping to announce our November schedule actually on our next show tomorrow, which will be episode 8 of this podcast, and we're excited to get some more guests moving forward here, episode 9 and beyond on the show. And we're also going to make it easier for you to access our Uscreen by just simply using your YouTube credentials moving forward, as we're setting up a link here very shortly where you'll be able to access some free content on our Uscreen service to see what it truly is all about before maybe you end up making a purchase. But yeah, that's really it for me. I guess a bit of a shameless plug. Well, a plug that has some passion behind it, right? As the reason we're doing this is not only trying to help us bring some money in, but also helping the Winnipeg High School Hockey League grow with the viewers we're trying to bring in, as well as letting fans know that there's a place to access games beyond the rink. with a whole lot of value in them, and yeah, just a place where you get to support the Winnipeg High School Hockey League on our Uscreen service. I think it's good to bring it up in more depth every once in a while, right? Since it is pretty early on in the season and not too many people end up knowing about it. But yeah, that's going to be all for me, Graeme the G Show Forsyth, giving you the peace out and waving so long on this Friday afternoon, everybody. Gotta get down to St. Vital Arena very soon here. You all have a wonderful rest of your Halloween. I hope the day's been going wonderful so far. And I also hope that you have a wonderful weekend, enjoy all the hockey coming your way, and have a wonderful start to your November. Like I said, until tomorrow, actually, when we'll be seeing you again for episode 8. It's been your host, Graeme the G Show Forsyth, saying so long on this Halloween afternoon in 2025. Take care, everybody.